Good day, everyone. My name is Christian May Kahena. I'm the first reporter of Chapter 5 Global Political Structures and Processes. So first, I will going to read the lesson layout of Chapter 5 on political flows, the nation state, threats to the nation state, and defense of nation state, image community, changes in global nation-state relation, United Nations, global governance, and last, civil society. So, I'm tasked to discuss on political flows, the nation-state, and the threats to the nation-state. So, on political flows. First, global flow of people poses a direct threat to the nation-state. When we say global flow of people, these are the movement of people across the international borders. These, for example, are the migration, human trafficking, and tourism. So next is dwindling oil and water supplies threaten to lead to riots. So we can connect this in microeconomics, the supply and demand economic. Basically, the top four sources of oil are US, China, Russia, and Saudi Arabia. So next, inability of the nation state to control economic flows dominated by MNCs. MNCs, this is the transnational corporation that operates with one or more than countries. Example for this are Adidas, Apple, Starbucks, and so on. Next, environmental problems are very likely to be destabilizing politically. Environment needs many ideologies like environmentalism, anti-capitalism, and anti-government movements. Next, borderless disease pose a danger to political structure. Example for this is the government. It has a great effects in our community. Next, war, especially those on the losing side. War destroys communities and families and often disrupt the development of the social and economic fabric of nations. So next, global inequalities, especially the profound and growing north-south split. The north-south divide in a term used to describe the social, economic, and cultural disparities between the location and the southeast of England and the rest of the UK. People living in the southeast typically have a longer life expectancy, higher income, and better standard of living than those living in the worst. So last, terrorism. Terrorist act can cause ripple effects through the economy that have negative impacts. The most obvious is the direct economic destruction of property and lives. So next, the nation state. First, the Treaty of Westphalia. The Treaty of Westphalia instituted an international system which recognized sovereign state at its core. The treaty was widely interpreted as giving states the right to political self-determination to be considered equal from a legal point of view, as prohibiting them from intervening in the affairs of other sovereign states. So, Treaty of Westphalia granted religious tolerance to Lutherans and Calvinists in the Holy Roman Empire. The main point of Westphalia is the Peace of Westphalia recognized the full territorial sovereignty of the member states of the empire. They were empowered to contract treaties with one another and with foreign powers, provided that the emperor and the empire suffered no prejudice. Peace of Westphalia has four main points: national self-determination, the precedents for ending wars through diplomatic congress, peaceful coexistence among sovereign states as the norm. The fourth is maintained by a balance of power among sovereign states and acceptance of principle of non-interference in the internal affairs of other sovereign states, because it believes that it is a milestone for development from tolerance and secularization. So next, the nation state has two basic components: nation and state. Nation refers to social group that is linked through common descent, culture, language, and territorial contiguity. So, for example of nation is the Philippines. The Philippines are a nation that is made up of a large number of islands located off mainland of Asia. So next, national identity. The fluid and dynamic form of collective identity founded upon a community's subjective belief that the members of the community share a set of characteristics that make them different from other groups. So, national identity is a feeling of belonging a person has towards his or her country. This feeling comes from a language, culture, beliefs, and history of that country. Also, national identity refers to the actions and behaviors which are accepted by citizens of a country. Nationalism, a doctrine and or political movement that seeks to make the nation the basis of a political structure, especially a state. So for example, here in Philippines, the ways to express Filipino nationalism is to respect the Philippine flag and value the Filipino identity, stand proud of every Filipino's achievements, preserve the Filipino culture, and so on. So in state organizational structure outside other socioeconomic hierarchies with relatively autonomous office holders. The four elements of state are population, territory, government, and sovereignty. So, the state is entirely different from the nation, for it only deals with what people can see around them. It is based on the territory, independence, and sovereignty of the government exercising control over a bounded area. So next, nation state. Nation state can therefore be seen as an integration of the subgroups that define themselves as a nation with the organizational structure of the state. So a nation state would be a sovereign territory with one group of individuals who share a common history. So, when a nation of people has a state or country of their own, it is called a nation state. So, lastly of my discussion, the threats to the nation state. Threats to the nation state are global flows, international human rights, shadows of war. So, in global flows, the uncomfortable truth is that in terms of global economy, nation states have become little more than bit actors. So, ours in ours is an interdependent world connected by global flows of goods, services, capital people, data, and ideas. Global flows of all types supports growth by raising productivity, and data flows are amplifying this effect by broadening participation and creating more efficient markets. Global flows are creating new degrees of connectedness among economies and playing an ever larger role in determining the fate of nations, companies, and individuals. To be unconnected is to fall behind. So, next, international human rights. Human rights entitlement of individuals to life, security, and well-being. It is argued that because these rights are universal, the nation state cannot abrogate them. So, the threats to human rights in the Philippines is repression of dissent, the continual linking of organizations and individuals to communist group by the authorities and their supporters, known as red tagging, led to further killings, arbitrary detentions, and harassment of human rights defenders, political activists, and others. So the last one is shadows of war. Shadows of war, the complex set of cross-state economic and political linkage that move outside formally recognized state-based channels. So, shadow of war is when a greater force oversees a smaller dispute between nations where it influences it but dies little combat in the sense that their participation in the war is extremely less. They just guide and monitor it. So, example for this is the black market. Pictures are shown above. So, black market is illegal trade takes place in secret or in dark because of black market. Market trade occurs of the books. So, to speak, it represents a whole sector of a country's economy that cannot accurately be measured. So, that could be all for my part. Again, my name is Christian May Kohena. Thank you for watching and listening. I hope you have understand my report. Thank you all. God bless.